And it's equally important that we keep you informed of our current financial position and how we're planning our budget toward continued operations in light of the fiscal impacts that we face. Here is Doug Sawyer, our Finance Chair.
Thanks, Rick. At this time, I'm going to review the Alberta Beef Producers financial position as of March 31st, 2009. The financial statements have been audited and found in order by Kingston Ross Pasnick LLP. These financial statements are included in your annual report. As reflected on the Statement of Operations, marketings for the 2008-2009 year total $4.67 million as compared to the $4.47 million the prior year. The number of marketings was significantly higher than the budgeted $4 million. At the time this budget was struck, the Board of Directors anticipated that a greater number of cattle would be exported to the United States for sale, in which case ABP would not receive a service charge. As a result of COOL and a number of U.S. plants closing to Canadian imports, this expectation was not realized and the cattle were sold in Alberta, which resulted in an increase in ABP's revenue. Pursuant to agreements ABP has entered into with the Canadian Beef Cattle Research, Market Development and Promotion Agency, ABP remits $1 to the national agency from every $3 federal levy collected. Additional information on the funding of the agency is included in your annual report. National policy and trade advocacy programs include Alberta's share of expenses to run the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. The CCA has significantly expanded international trade activities over the past years, as well as our combined efforts that continue to lobby provincial and federal governments, the U.S. and internationally. Enhanced federal lobbying includes activities in Canada to meet with local and federal governments and increase communication with other provincial cattle organizations. U.S. and international trade management include activities in the United States and supporting our government at the WTO. Also included is ABP's attendance at meetings with organizations linked to the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. In the Board, Delegate and Provincial Initiatives area is a new item supporting provincial initiatives, which include the cost of special mail-outs to producers, extra meetings, and newspaper articles needed to increase communications with regards to the announcement of the Alberta Livestock and Meat Strategy and the creation of the Alberta Livestock and Meat Agency, and the legislation imposing a refundable checkoff. Committee, council, and project expenses vary year to year, depending on each group's programs and projects executed for the purpose of achieving the overall mandate of ABP. The Promotion Committee launched the new Raised Right program. The Research Committee approved a number of projects, and the funds have been allocated to the Long-Term Project Fund. I refer you to the annual report for further details on these initiatives undertaken this year. The Statement of Operations reflects an excess of revenue over expenses of $3.3 million, of which $3 million has been allocated by the motion from the Board of Directors to an operating fund for the 2010-2011 year. $1.5 million was transferred from the unrestricted net assets to the Trade Advocacy Reserve Fund, and $1.7 to the Long-Term Projects Reserve Fund. This resulted in unrestricted net assets of $1.3 million, $5 million in the Trade Advocacy Reserve Fund, $2.1 million in the long-term project commitments, and $184,000 in net investment in capital assets. The funds held in trust are invested in low-risk investments. I would like to now discuss the move to a refundable checkoff. With Bill 43, the Marketing of Agricultural Products Amendment Act 2009, number 2, receiving third reading on June 2, 2009, ABP's current non-refundable service charge will become refundable effective April 1, 2010. A system for refundable checkoff is being developed. The draft amendments to the cattle marketing regulation are being discussed with producers at the 2009 fall producer meetings and will be debated and voted upon by the ABP delegate body at the 2009 annual general meeting in December. The amendments to the cattle marketing regulation must be completed by January 1, 2010. A consultation paper was mailed out to every producer with this year's annual report. Copies of the consultation paper are also available at the fall producer meetings. To have input into the refund process, please submit any comments you have to the ABP office. As we move forward, the Board of Directors has recommended a change in the budgeting process for future years. The net revenue remaining from the amounts collected, less the refunds and the payments to the national agency in one year, will be used for the expenses the following year. This process will enable ABP to budget effectively and ensure these funds are available for core operations. For transition purposes, the Board of Directors passed a motion to reduce the current 2009-2010 budgeted expenses by $1 million, plus reduce the transfer to the Trade Advocacy Reserve by $1 million, reallocating these funds to the operating fund for the 2010-2011 year. This $2 million was added to the $3 million excess of revenue over expenses from 2008-2009 to provide $5 million in operating fund for the 2010-2011 budget year. A copy of the amended 2009-2010 budget is included in the annual report. The major areas impacted by the reduction in the current year's budget include a reduction of $258,000 in the management, operations, and administrative area, $200,000 in the legal contingency line, $100,000 reduction in both promotion and research, and $185,000 in other committee and council budgets. It is important to note that these are not budget areas that were considered excessive nor containing any unreasonable expenses. These budget cuts represent a direct reduction in the programs and services that would have been beneficial to producers as a whole. The sad part of this is that next year's budget cuts will be more significant and industry programs will suffer as a whole. The lack of a unified voice promoting the industry will be gone. At a time when industry should be focused on Canadian production and international trade, it is disheartening to see the direction we are currently heading. The budget for the 2010-2011 year end is included in your annual report. This year, ABP has set a budget based on the $5 million in the operations fund. From this amount, Alberta must pay its share of the CCA assessments, continue to execute trade advocacy programs, incur the cost associated with running a democratic organization. ABP must continue to achieve the mandate stipulated by the Alberta Beef Producers Plan, and we will need staff and an office to do so. The board, delegates, and producers have more hard choices to make as we move forward in this new world. The Board of Directors believes the budget reflects a cautious approach to managing our organization. Your zone director will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Rick?
Thanks, Doug.